Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Pinewood Hills. It's Friday, which means it's time to jump into our British theme park here in Planet Coaster. And yeah, we're starting a new project today. I know there's lots of half-done projects, but I just had a feel that I really wanted to do this. So we went to Alton Towers a week or two ago now, and we had a day in CBeebies Land, which is their sort of their children's area basically. We took Xander for the first time to Alton Towers and took him round CBeebies Land and did all the little rides there that he could fit on. There's still a few that he's a little short for, unfortunately. But yeah, one of the ones that was there was a little boat ride that is themed around In the Night Garden, which is a popular kids TV show here in the UK. I'm not sure if it's made it anywhere else, but it's for very young kids. It's ridiculous, to be honest with you. It's all the characters are called Dingle, Plingle, and Blipply Plop, and all they do is walk around and go biddle boddle biddle boddle. It's it's rubbish. But I'd love the fact that they had this little boat ride, and I thought that I'd like to do one of those in Gulpy Land. So here it is. It's going to be a really simple ride. It's going to be an outdoor but themed ride. So the theme is going to be loosely based around Princess Amelie and sort of like a fairy tale story, really. So the main reason I wanted to do that is because there's some really great fairy tale pieces that we can get to use now, and also I just felt it fit quite well with the theme. So that's what we're going for here. So we're using the water coaster. Now, obviously, we have a few options here now for water rides in the game. There's the log flume, obviously, the river rapids, and then there is the I don't know what it's called, but the actual boat ride itself comes as one that you can just place on top of water, and then one that has its own water channel. And then there's also this one, which is a water coaster, and this one seems to be the one that fits best with what I wanted to do. The boat ride itself, the problem is the boats are really quite themed, and they have a bit of a sort of like an Amity harbour kind of feel to them, a bit more adventure-y than what I wanted to go for, which was like more of a fantasy build. These ones have really quite generic boats, which is pretty good, and all you have to do is have a little bit of a track there that drops them into the water and pulls them back out again. Now on the actual ride, what happens is that you hit a conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt pulls you up out of the water and drops you back into the water, and the water runs through underneath. So this is about as close as I can get it without actually having in the game the ride from CBeebies Land. Then I think this is about as close as we're going to get. So I'm happy to move forward with this style of coaster, and even with it just dropping off into the water and pottering about and coming back again, it ends up with like a 3.5 excitement. So people do actually come over here and ride it, which is pretty crazy. And obviously one thing that we have to do is I really wanted the entrance and exits on separate sides, because that's usually how these things load and unload. It does mean at some point you've got to get over the track, so whether or not that's on the way in or the way out, at CBeebies it's actually on the way out. So as you exit the ride, you go over a little bridge over the water. And out here, I decided for the queue to go up and over, so we can have this relatively grandiose queue building here made out of stone. So one thing I want you to bear in mind with this is it's going to be very budget, it's going to be very cheap. I'm going to purposely have it all a little bit overgrown. I'm going to have it purposely, the animatronics are all going to be set to static. They're not going to be moving or anything like that. We're going to be building some of our own, characters as well, which we get into later in the video. And also this isn't real stonework here. This would be a combination of sort of formed concrete, fiberglass, all that kind of stuff. So you have to bear that in mind, that the budget is a little bit lower than what it's not real castle brick basically. Here again was something I wanted to kind of do to get across the idea of that slight jankness. This is a net here so that you can't fall. If you fell off or if you dropped anything, it wouldn't go in the water. Little things like that I think make a big difference here. This isn't going to be a huge dark fantasy. This isn't going to be the sort of thing we build in Geekism Studios. This is very much a Pinewood Hills build, so it's going to have lots of bits of jank, bits of overgrown foliage and just kind of like naff areas basically. So that's what we're going to do there. So one thing I really wanted to do was kind of hark back to some of the crappy kids rides that I used to really love when I was a kid, and one of those Alton Towers, like I say, is now CBeebies Land, but before that, it used to be called, oh god, a total mental blank now. I think it was called Storybook Land or something like that. It was the kids area before it was rebranded to CBeebies. Now, I actually think the CBeebies IP is fantastic. It's really made the area really great, and I'll be honest with you, it's kind of saved the park, really. It's the one bit of the park that's actually doing really well. They have hotels and all sorts now themed around the CBeebies IP, and it's kind of kept Alton Towers open, if I'm honest with you, since the Smiler incident a few years ago. So I'm all for the change, but obviously, being when I was a kid, it was more of just a generic kids area. And I'm pretty sure it was called Storybook Land, and one of the things it had was this huge storybook that opened out on the way in, and out of the middle of the book there came a bookworm. It was an animatronic, and it didn't really move much, but it wobbled around a little bit, and it would tell stories, and it would say, "You're welcome to Storybook Land," and all this sort of stuff. And I've got really quite good memories of it, actually, and I really wanted to kind of get that as part of this here. So what we're going to do is have these books throughout the ride, kind of telling a bit of the story, and I probably made a bit of a rod from my own back here, because it does mean that anything we want to have written on these needs to have each individual letter here sort of copied over and put in, and it looks a little jank, but I think it's okay. It looks like it's kind of badly painted, and that's kind of the sort of, again, all part of the sort of budget feel. What I could do is use one of the custom fonts that people have made, sort of to use instead. But I feel that these squares here, they're pretty much decent size. You can do quite a bit with them. And on this one, you'll see me here writing Once Upon a Time, obviously. And then I do another one that says In a Land Far Away. And the Land Far Away one took me minutes to do, because it was literally, for the most part, changing the letters that were already there and copying a few over. So although this did take a little bit of time to get it to say Once Upon a Time, once it's done, it actually turned out pretty decent and pretty easy to copy over and use again. So using a little bit of trim here. I start off with those vintage ones. They don't quite look right. They look a bit too detailed almost. And so instead we use those. Now, you'll notice I was building that outside of Pinewood Hills. That's made just because of I'm still a little bit nervous about the crashing issue, although it happens a lot less now that Slipknot very kindly gave us some more RAM. But it does still happen occasionally, especially when moving pieces around like that using the advanced move tool. So anything like this now, what I've just started doing is just saving, coming out of Pinewood, building it, saving it as a blueprint, and coming back in again. It takes a few minutes to do, and it just gives me a lot more peace of mind. So here goes the first book. I actually I kind of finished up this area here and put a screenshot onto the Geekism Discord, and also Bro Nation for a little bit of feedback. And early feedback was pretty good. They said that, you know, they even shared it on the Bro Nation Twitter feed as well, saying they could smell the mouldy water, which is exactly the kind of thing I want to go for. They have that smell, don't they, water rides? They just have that sort of slightly stagnant water smell, which is really good. But what I actually do in the end is move that book over to the other side of the ride. The only reason I do that is because I want the next book on the other side, and I want each book to kind of move left and right, just to kind of give you a bit of movement in the ride and a bit of sort of so your eyes are sort of moving back and forth. There we're putting in a bit of a castle wall just along the main path there. Where the tower is that we just put in, that's where that castle was going to end, and then we're just going to move to standard fencing, and that's because, again, I kind of want the idea of the budget was kind of spent up on the front of this building, and then the rest of it's just gone, I'll just stick a fence up so kids don't fall in the water, basically. So there we go. We're now going back to the book, and here I start work on. Now, before your comment, yes, I know what this looks like. All right. It changes, don't worry. So here we start working on the bookworm. I'll put a picture of the actual one, all right, on the screen right now, and you can see there. So that's kind of what we're going for. I think I do a pretty good job. I'm no art shape expert, I'm no SP Ridley, and also people have been doing some great stuff with art shapes. If you, I'm sure you do, but if you don't watch Delay Designer, her art shape stuff lately she's been absolutely killing it. She's been doing some really great dark rides in her studios park, a Monsters Inc. one, and then she's currently working on a Finding Nemo one. And honestly, her art shape stuff has just got so much better recently. Really, really top quality. I'm nowhere near that, all right? So don't expect to see the most amazing art shape build here. This ends up looking a little bit like a cock and balls, but we try our hardest to change it as we go. But I thought this was a really nice little nod back to sort of my childhood in theme parks, and just enjoying these this kind of area. I was going to build a hat, but they have this snowman hat, and it's maybe slightly small, but it's just so good not to use it. You know, it really is. You couldn't get that detail with art shapes, so it's probably, like I say, could do with being 20-30% bigger for this build, but I'm more than happy to go for it. Same here with the scarf as well, just to kind of give it not only a bit of texture variation, but then also just to get a little bit of detail in that you really struggle to do with art shapes. Here, trying to figure out how to do his coat. In the actual one you saw there, he had this really big sort of like wizard. It's almost like he's dressed up as a wizard, I guess, which is kind of what we're going for here. Here, the idea is that he's going to be the narrator of the story, so he's going to pop up alongside these books occasionally, just kind of will move his arms a little bit so he's in slightly different stances. But yeah, the idea here is that he's very much the narrator of the story. He's telling us all about the plight of Princess Emily, kind of making it up as I go along, to be honest, for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to be a very sort of standard fairy tale story. We'll have the witch in there somewhere as the peril halfway through, but for the most part, it's because at these rides they very often didn't have much of a story. They had whatever the pieces they could get hold of, or whatever the pieces they bought, and they kind of stuck them in. For instance, the one that this is loosely based off, which is the In the Night Garden, right, there's no story there at all. It literally says, oh look, here's these characters, and then it turns the corner and oh look, here's these characters, and each of the characters just kind of wobble back and forth and go ickle plickle blugger blickle blickle. So yeah, that was kind of the idea there, was to keep it purposefully very low sort of concepts. And then finally, he had this awesome magnifying glass. I really wanted to try and get that in there as well. So it's got a magnifying glass, but it also could just be like, it just looks a little bit magical, and I quite like it. So back over in the park, he's in place now. And the next thing I wanted to show you was a little bit of the hedge work I'm doing. We're using these topiary hedges. They're a little bit manicured, really, for what they should be, but they're the best we've got hedge-wise. I use a combination of these and then also some conifers all squished together closely. And one thing you can't really do with these kind of rides indoors, you can't just have walls cutting them off. So one thing I noticed in the Night Garden ride was there's lots of hedges, lots of high trees and everything to kind of block each area off, and that's kind of how they do it. Last thing I'm doing then is starting to build the first scene, which is going to be the sort of the Fairytale Town. And to show you quickly one of these buildings going together, but now we'll cut to a live action section where I can show you this scene all complete. So briefly then, you can see where it is in relation to the rest of it. I know at the moment we've kind of got this set as Gulpy Land, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to remove these signs, move them out, and have this larger area here as Gulpy Land. You can see some work has happened to the Alpine Coaster yet, but I'm not really happy with it. I'm not willing to sort of show you that just yet. So instead, here we go, coming down here then. So again, stations still to do. There's a couple of people, bless them, waiting for the ride to start. It's a little bit intense with the coaster supports there, but I still think it's the best of the bunch. So you can see we moved this once upon a time to the other side. Somebody suggested we take the black out of here. I've actually gone for a bit of a sort of like dirty colour here, so the sort of they look a bit sun bleached, because obviously these will stay outside all the time. And then we come over here and we see in a land far away, we see our little bookworm there. Really quite happy with how he's turned out, especially his eyes. I'm really happy with those. And then we now come into the main track. So the idea here is that there's going to be a lot of foliage. Sometimes just the topiary is going to be the stuff that's interesting to see, but then occasionally, let me come to the other camera, there we go, occasionally there's going to be some scenes as well. So here's our first one, and we've got a nice little village laid out here. So we have here a couple of jesters, one of them broke, so never mind. But yeah, here we go, a couple of jesters and a couple of drats and things like that. So this is a village scene. And there with some houses, but all of these houses, they're just fronts here with some supports behind them, and you can see that they kind of works quite nicely with the trees behind them. And you'll see that here, when the boat turns away from that wall, is when that wall ends. So from here on out, it'll just be wooden fencing and some foliage here either side. So that's kind of the idea. When the budget can be cut, it will be cut. And then each of these sort of turns will become a scene. So we'll have another scene here, here, and here. Pretty much the scenes will run down the middle, and they'll be chopped off and covered up by hedging and fencing. So sort of along here, really, the hedges will start again, come round to here so that your eye line is cut off from them until you come round this way, and you'll see probably Princess Amelie or something hanging around, and then we'll have an evil witch sitting off over here, and maybe a dragon or something as well. The dragons, they're pretty big, but I'm thinking that with them turned off, they kind of just look like a giant fiberglass structure, really. So I think we'll get away with having a dragon. Maybe just what I'm thinking is maybe the sleeping one, because it's the least animated of them. The problem with these ones is as good as they are, they're really big. So if you come over here, you'll see that you can pretty much see it wherever you are, and that's not really the sort of thing we want. We want this ride to be relatively hidden, because the one we're basing it from in Alton Towers is pretty well hidden. You can't really see much of it at all. But yeah, I'm thinking, one of these guys here sitting down. Obviously, we'll do a bit of terrain work. We'll have him there, but I do quite like the smoke coming out of him. But the problem is with them is that the animation is just too good. It doesn't look like an animatronic animation. It looks like an actual dragon. So what we'll probably do is knock him down to stationary and just have some special effects steam coming from them, because steam is quite a simple and cost-effective thing to have. So what we'll probably do is would it be underwater steam, or should we just search for it? Let's just search for it. Steam. There we go. Steam jet. So what we'll do is probably just have something like this. So it looks like water vapor coming out, and that's a bit random, and that's kind of the level of special effects I'm willing to go to, is some steam being spurted out as you go past to kind of get like a shocking moment. But the dragon itself would not be animated. It would be far too expensive to animate something like that. So yeah, there you go. There's an idea of what we're doing. I'm really happy with this first bit. I think it's a good combo of at one point this would have been pretty impressive, but it's probably a few years old now, and he's looking a bit tired. But he got tied into the Gulpy Land redo when they did that. They didn't really spend much money on this because it's it's a bit of a classic, and that's kind of what I've got in my head anyway. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, you can give us a like. It really helps out the channel. And if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe. Any thoughts, queries or suggestions, you can pop them down in the comments. And if you fancy a chat, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at JontySparrow. If you'd like to join in with the Geekism community, you can do so over on our Geekism Discord server. You'll find the link for that in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.